on the,
Make sure you identify yourself and where address.
my name is Helen Cherides. I live at 555 Main Street on Roosevelt Island. My question is with respect to the vessels themselves. Are we going to have any, or is the EDC going to have any input on, because I'm assuming they're going to have to be purchased by the operator. Is there any way that we can have an input, or are you guys going to be working with them on, because, you know, the currents in the East River are kind of strong, and I'm thinking we could have maybe very stable, you know, vessels if possible. Well, I know it's not going to be the Staten Island Ferry, but something that, you know, is not going to be too conducive to seasickness or something.
Sure, absolutely. That's a great question. So you're absolutely right. The vessels are being provided by the operator, and while we are still working through the various operators who have come to us as responses for the RFP, we do know that whoever wins will have to build some number of vessels, just because of the nature of the number that we need for this system, on the order of 20 vessels in the peak hour. And yes, we will be able to work with whoever that operator is in order to call out certain things. For example, in our RFP, we requested certain things related to engine types in order to limit emissions. I'd have to double check. I believe we talked about looking at double hull, which is what we use on the East River Ferry most of the time, which does help to what you were talking about, stability. One thing I didn't mention is that we are planning to use 149 passenger vessels. During the week, if you ride the East River Ferry, those are 149 passenger vessels, so they're pretty spacious. They accommodate things like bicycles on board, strollers, wheelchairs. Everything, as Justine had mentioned, is ADA and Local Law 68 compliant. So those are a lot of the main considerations that we're taking into account as we plan.
Hi, my name is Frank Ferenc, and glad to see all the equipment working. I live right next door at 555 Main Street. I wanted to drill down into one aspect here, and so I'm going to ask a question, and maybe if I don't ask it right, maybe I get to follow up with just making sure we're drilling down right on. So I want to go with the environmental impact on this, because I think that's something, in fact, you're here on Roosevelt Island, I don't know how much time you spend here, but it's a very tiny place, and congestion is a big issue, and traffic congestion is it's a complex problem, more so, say, for example, Long Island City. So can you tell me a little bit about what you're doing in terms of environmental impact for specifically Roosevelt Island? I'd like to hear something about the parking, the pedestrian, the usage, aspects of that. And if you don't have an answer, maybe you'll tell us how to get it.
Sure. So the first thing I'll say is that all of the documents that we have produced, and they are designed to be publicly accessible so that it's more readable for the public, so it's not just a technical jargon, are available on that website. So I do encourage you to check that after our answer, just so you can look at other things we've said. But in general, when we go through the traffic impact analysis related to the environmental study, what we're looking for is to see if we trip certain thresholds, because we know how people walk to a ferry landing. That's one of the most important things that we've learned from the East River Ferry. With the East River Ferry, I think it's close to 90% of our regular riders are walking or riding a bicycle to the ferry. Most people don't tend to connect to a ferry, and the whole nature of ferries at the waterfront is such that they're not usually close to a subway station. Here, it's actually semi-close because we're talking about being in the middle of the island. And as you've said, it's a small geography. So we are technically closer. But most people are anticipated to be walking and biking to ferry landings. And of course, there's the benefit of having the bus hands on Roosevelt Island that can also circulate people. So there isn't, we are not planning to accommodate for a parking structure or a parking lot. However, our experience through the East River Ferry is that most people are not driving to these landings.
Can I just follow up just quickly on that? Is that that area where you're building or planning on building, that I think that's a great idea, and that's a great spot for it because it's very close to. There's an alternate spot right on the other side of the subway, but it's central to our transportation hub in here, and you might think about there's a synergy with having the ferry, the tram, and the subway with a red bus that takes you free to the parking garage. There's a lot more synergy there than just merely dropping a ferry stop on Roosevelt Island. So I encourage you to think further on it. Thank you.
Thanks for the contribution.
Thank you. Are there more members of the public who wish to address the EDC at this time?
One question and a quick observation.
Chairman, can you
Oh, I'm
see
sorry,
that?
I'm Sharon Berman, and yes, I'm the waterfront advocate, which means I'm the only one on the island who goes to a lot of very boring meetings and talks about how much we really want to be able to launch kayaks and other boats from Roosevelt Island. But this is a good start, at least we'll have a ferry. Thank you. I'm pleased that although we won't be able to swipe our Metro card, that you're going to keep it relatively affordable. Will there be a reduced price for whatever categories, you know, seniors and others? So it will still be half price?
Sure. So the commitment that we made is definitely about the $2.75 as a base fare. That's where we're starting at. What we are doing is talking to our operators through the procurement. We ask them to talk to us about what kinds of discounts they can accommodate. We have to go through and understand. I'm sorry.
Can you hear
Can
us?
I'm hearing you here, I have no idea what you're saying.
Okay. Should we speak louder?
That doesn't help. Never mind, I'll have somebody tell me later what you said.
Sure. So, I mean, $2.75 is the base fare, and we have asked the operators who have responded to our RFP to tell us what kind of discounts they would be able to provide while still understanding the subsidy that they would be getting from the city.
So,
It's not yet
yes or no
determined.
answer, there's a possibility that there will be reduced fares?
There's a possibility, but we are still trying to work through the negotiations. So the
A quick
270.
observation. This stuff is very impressive. I would suggest that you redo your graphics and put some bikes in there. I feel, well, actually two things. First of all, I think the cycling population is going to really make a difference, especially from Roosevelt Island, because we don't really need to commute, I'm sorry. But this is not the biggest reason why people, I think, will take the ferry from here. I think you're going to get a lot of people on bikes. And I want to tell you something. When I was invited to a whole bunch of things when city bikes, you know, was rolled out, and I really think you want to go to all the alternative transportation groups, biking, East Coast Greenway. There's just a zillion organizations, and let them know about it because people will really be excited about being able to take the ferry from Roosevelt Island down to where they can, you know, go over the Brooklyn Bridge and that kind of stuff.
Thank you so much. And I think as a part of, just to add on to what you're saying, a part of our community outreach and engagement is to do just that, is to talk to civic organizations, to talk to other agencies as well. It's going to take lots of interagency coordination. There's much to go with this plan, so we're very aggressive in making sure that we are talking to folks to make it as...
We're really looking forward to welcoming you here.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Hi, I'm Margie Smith. Live at 531 Main. Just a quick question about the scheduling. You said there were going to be about 20 ferries, or that this provider will have to build 20 more. On a typical rush hour, for instance, how many ferries can we be expecting to have arrive?
Sure. So when I said 20, I was talking system-wide, just the number of vessels that you would need in order to operate all 6 routes throughout the system. So that means I was talking about the total number of ferries. For actually the Astoria route, and I'd have to double check, but is it 20 minutes?
So the total time for the Astoria route is 38 minutes total time. That's from Astoria all the way to Wall Street Pier 11, specifically from Roosevelt Island into East 34th Street. We're looking at about 14 minutes, somewhere around there.
And I guess to your other question, how often, and this is where I'm going to double check, our RFP, I believe, asked for something like 20-minute headways. It was 20 to 30-minute headways, which means that you'd see 2 to 3 vessels per hour.
2 to 3 per hour
Yeah.
for the rush hour. And each vessel holds, you said about 140?
149 passenger vessels.
Okay, so 150 each, 2 to 3 in. Okay, I'm just trying to get a feel for what kind of relief we'll get with the training, etc.
And just one more thing to add, as part of our RFP process, we have requested service to start as early as 6:30 a.m. and to end by 10 p.m. So that's some of just the parameters in terms of what we have included in our RFP.
Thank you.
Are there any further members of the public who have any questions for the EDC concerning the presentation? If there are no further members, we're going to move to the board, so I will just want to make sure if there's any further, Judy, you're part of the board, please sit down. Are there any further members of the public? The board will ask questions after the committee. We'll turn to you guys. All right.